Today in our palmistry series, I'd like to look at fingers and thumbs. Most people think of hand reading as reading the lines of the hands, and that's true to some degree, but professional palmists always start with the back of the hands first. So we're going to first start with the thumbs, and there are two types of thumbs. There are stiff and flexible thumbs, and that is, they're stiff or flexible at this point here, at this joint. And the way you test for this is, you place your thumb here, your first finger there, and you press hard on that and see if it moves. If it doesn't budge, it's considered a stiff thumb. Stiff-thumbed people tend to be a little bit obstinate sometimes, a little bit stubborn. They're slow to warm up to new people, and they hold on to their friendships. If you can put your thumb here and your finger there and bend it and it bends right back, as though it's on a spring, that's considered a flexible thumb. Flexible-thumbed people tend to avoid arguments. If they're pushed in an argument, they'll tell you what they think you want to hear, and they'll happily go off and do what they're planning to do in the first place. They adapt. Flexible-thumbed people also adapt to their environment, so they'll have the tastes of their partner, the tastes of the family members. They'll adapt and absorb the like-minded tastes of the people in their circumstances. To give it some context, when stiff-thumbed people move from one country to the other, they'll bring the old country with them, all the habits, all the traditions, even down to the architecture. They recreate what they grew up with. When flexible-thumbed people move to a new location, they tend to adapt. They find that they can blend in quite easily, and the habits and traditions they used to have, they let go of those. In family dynamics, if one parent is stiff-thumbed and one parent is flexible-thumbed, stiff dominates flexible. So that means if they have children, there's a greater likelihood that they'll have stiff-thumbed children. If you divide palm reading into three parts, it begins with the fingers, and then we look at the mounts, and lastly we look at the lines. The fingers reveal the person's nature, their personality. The fleshy pads or the mounts around the edge of the hand show you character traits, preferences, best, most suitable career, sense of humour, intolerances to food, and health areas to watch. And finally, the lines, they show the events and the milestones in a person's life. And that's the order you read them in, starting with the back of the hands, to the fingers, to the mounts, and then to the lines, because events and milestones vary according to those other things that precede them. Fingers seem to be all the same until you look at them closely. Upon close examination, you'll find that fingers sometimes bend in different directions. When they're being examined, you can hold the hand straight up, or you can place it face down on a table. You'll still get the same inclinations of the fingers. When the first finger bends towards the middle finger, this usually indicates somebody who has low self-confidence. These people tend to be high achievers because they don't really value what they bring. And the thing with these people is, if you look over their shoulder and say, "That's a really good job, I love the way you've done that," they have a tendency to say, "If I did it again, I'd change it, I'd leave that out, I'd leave this in, I'd move this over here." They're never quite satisfied. If the first finger curves in both hands, it indicates that the parents didn't have confidence and weren't able to give the child confidence. Because the non-writing hand shows inherited qualities, whereas the writing hand shows what you've developed with those qualities, where you've taken what you've inherited. When the middle fingers sit tightly together, this indicates somebody who's had a lot of responsibilities from an early age. This would be the person who as a child maybe had to raise her brothers and sisters, have to look after them. Somebody who had to raise themselves, and in some rare cases, somebody who had to look after parents, even as a child. These people usually feel like they cannot relax until all the work is done. As supervisors in a workplace, they tend to micromanage and regularly check the standard of work of subordinates. As a result of having these fingers together, it shows they can work for themselves because they won't stop doing the job until it's done. This is the person to put in charge of a fundraiser, managing an event, or getting a project over the line. The good thing about the fingers is the inclination of fingers is easily seen every day, over lunch, with friends, at social events, even when watching TV. If the middle finger curves away from the thumb, it indicates the person's an introvert. This is someone who enjoys their own company, and in social events tends to stay in one corner of the room talking to one or two people all night. When the little finger, the mercury finger, curves into the others, it suggests somebody who's private. These individuals don't reveal too much about themselves to others until they know that their information is safe. Conversely, when the mercury finger is independent, it shows a person who can separate work from rest. If you know this person in the work environment, they can be quite different when they're out of the work environment. This person is capable of turning off a work persona when leaving the workplace and immediately immersing themselves in leisure activities. Basically, work doesn't exist after they leave the office. Fingers also vary in length. Longer or shorter fingers can reveal more about a person. For looking at standard lengths, the first or Jupiter finger usually reaches halfway up the top phalange of the second finger. The third or ring finger is the same length as the first finger. The mercury finger, the little finger, usually reaches up to the base of the last phalange of the third finger there. When all of the fingers sit apart from each other, it usually indicates that the person lives in the moment without any thought for tomorrow. These individuals are spontaneous, impulsive, and focus on immediate opportunities rather than saving for the future. Like the thumbs, the fingers can be stiff or flexible. Fingers that are flexible from the base when bent backwards indicate how open we are to new ideas. When fingers bend back to almost 90 degrees, this indicates someone is always open to new ways of doing something. They're the early adopters of technology and of fashion. When the fingers don't bend back at all, as in my case, the person prefers to complete tasks the tried and trusted way. When a new way is offered to do something, they usually say, "Thanks, but we like the way we're doing it already." Palmists understand that even before they examine hands in a reading setting, they can observe hand shapes, fingers and thumbs from a distance, in films, when watching plays or concerts. Hopefully, you'll observe hands, fingers and thumbs differently after today. For more information about palm reading, take a look at my book Palmistry Revealed. Later in this series, we'll examine the significance of hand shapes, the mounts, and the major lines of the hands. We'll also look at how much can be gleaned from a 5-second handshake. If you want to know more about your hands and what they reveal about you, I offer distance palmistry readings from photographs. Using supplied photos, I send a report, usually within 48 hours, and this inexpensive way of looking at your hands gives you an analysis of the major lines, the mounts, the shape of the hands, gives you a basic grasp of what palmistry reveals.